it doesn't cut me off. Well, I'm expecting it to. But anyway, here we go. I know we're off to a really late start here. I had some technical difficulties. Very sorry about that. But thank you for coming and having a discussion about the Eye of the World. Now, Andrew, I know you did not read this series previously before I suggested it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, because this is this is a series that was started in the early '90s, and the author did not live through to the end of the series, and he did hand it off to Brandon Sanderson. But this first book in the series, The Eye in the World, I would have to say that this is probably one of my most favorite fantasy series of all time.
Yeah,
It's it's not for the light of heart, and it's
yeah.
extremely long.
It's like the quantum physics of fantasy.
So it's going to be a lot of reading. I think word count wise, it's like in the millions, and even maybe in the page counts, it's pretty high up there.
Yeah, like 700 at least times 14.
Yeah, that's a lot of pages.
Yeah.
And I actually this week I went through Eye of the World again um, via audiobook. I've probably read and listened to the first book probably total 3 times, not too many. I don't reread books often, but this is one that I enjoy.
Yeah, and
And
this
I
is
want,
you like have to go through it, I think, at least twice anyway to get any inkling, or at least for me anyway, like any decent understanding of what's going on. I know they were saying that in one of those Legendarium episodes that you recommended to me about it. And I've been noticing that the second time going through it this time, how much I missed the first time I went through it, and how there's definitely stuff that I missed this time too.
all right, so did you also start reading The Eye of the World again?
Yeah, I decided to do that too late though. I didn't give myself enough time, so I
Well,
didn't
I know
put.
that's what I thrust this one upon us pretty quick. I only gave us a week. I'll give you much further advance notice for the next one.
Yeah,
That way.
I'm gonna give myself 2 weeks to do that next time because it takes a long time to read the book, especially since I wasn't able to get the audiobook out from my library. So going through the book along with those Wheel of Time spoilers episodes is like the equivalent of 100 chapters per book or something like that. So that's that's a lot to go through.
Yeah, those analysis episodes are great.
They are.
They go through every single chapter, and they spend more time talking about the book than it takes to actually read through the book.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy. They'll spend at least like a half an hour on each chapter.
Yeah.
Some shorter chapters, they may group them together, but yeah, they do spend a lot of time analyzing character motivations, themes, analysis, and
Yeah.
even theories of things that are not fully explained in the world
Yeah.
of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time.
And that's all really helpful too, especially like explaining the characters' motivations and the history behind different characters and different concepts and stuff like that. That's all very helpful.
Yeah, and one of the things you notice about the Wheel of Time, a lot of the character interactions are very subtle.
Yeah.
Robert Jordan does not write character interactions in an overt way. And that's just because of the way that Aes Sedai operate. They try to spin half truths. So they speak in a way that what they say is true, but it isn't. So it must have been
Yeah,
very difficult for, because there's rules that Robert Jordan had to follow whenever a Aes Sedai spoke. So it had to be pretty interesting about him thinking of scenarios of what type of information an Aes Sedai could speak, considering they are physically unable to tell lies.
yeah. So they have to like circumnavigate around the truth sometimes if they don't want to reveal information that which is really it's really interesting when that happens.
Yeah, so if you want, I know you've listened to some analysis. There's a lot of parallels between the way this book starts and the way that the Fellowship of the Ring starts.
Yeah,
They do start off um, very well. Actually, if we talk about the prologue really quick, the prologue actually takes 3,000 years before the start of the book, and
yeah,
it's between two figures that are talked about quite a bit throughout the series, and these two figures actually are in the series. So they may. I know Luz Theron is basically he becomes like a voice in Rand's head much later on in the series,
yeah.
and then the character.
And he was Luz Theron was a false dragon, right?
No,
Oh
Luz
wait,
Theron
no,
is a
no,
true dragon.
he wasn't a false dragon. He was a real dragon.
Yeah, he was a true
Yeah.
dragon.
Maybe you
And
should
then
explain that concept for people who don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
yeah, false dragon. All right, so if we go back, what is this whole thing about? So there's a lot to explain, basically. Um, this world exists and time is cyclical, circular. It's
Cyclical.
just a slick, slab, cyclical.
Cyclical. There you go.
So there's these ongoing prophecies that kind of in events that occur. There's these lives that are relived, and they're just reincarnated in different forms. So if we're talking about Luz Theron, there's always a dragon that gets basically reincarnated, it seems, every 3,000 years or even less than that. There's
Yeah.
always these events that occur in a cyclical nature.
I
And
was just sorry. I was just noticing as you were saying that. Didn't they say in one of the Wheel of Time spoilers episodes that the Dark One gets released from his prison every 3,000 years too?
yeah, in some respects, like the dragon gets reborn every 3,000 years.
Okay.
And I know a lot of the basic concept of the book is this idea around balance and having an equal force to stop to go up against the evil. And
Yeah.
because these forces get out of hand, they have to balance each other out, and then you start again, another cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
But
why that's like one of the common symbols that's associated with the series and is at the start of a lot of the novel chapters looks like a yin and yang symbol.
yeah, so there's that's the balance and harmony aspect of the series. So if we talk about the prologue, there's these two characters. There's Lewis Theron and who Ishamael was about 3,000 years ago. I forget his name exactly, but he has a different name. In the series, he's known as Beelzebub Ishamael. He
Yeah.
later becomes Moradin. So it's always there's always this reincarnation feature among the series. So the evil reincarnations, they always remember their past lives, but the good incarnations typically don't, and they're harder to like mold because they have a fresh start every time they're reincarnated, as opposed to when the chosen are reincarnated, they're completely conscious of their past lives and knowledge.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so in this prologue, what happens is this is directly after when they attempt to steal the Dark One's prison. Dark One lashes out and taints Sayadine, which is the magical pool that male Aes Sedais use. When the Dark One taints this drives all male magic users pretty much insane. So Lews Therin returns home.
The
He's
Dark One's
gone nuts.
train drives people insane.
Yeah, he's pretty much nutso. And I believe he kills everyone off within 100 kilometers. They're not very, they believe that, I know they described in the book that everything around Lews Therin within 100 kilometers was dead. So he
Okay.
did something to kill off everybody. And then he's basically in his own keep looking for his family. And the guy is so crazy and he's been made insane by the Dark One's power, the Dark One's taint, that he doesn't know what he's done. He doesn't know that he's killed his entire family.
Yeah.
So Ishamael, I don't know, I forget what his name was back then, but he confronts Lews Therin and says, "Hey, look what you did to your family." And he basically lets Lews Therin see reality for what it is for a few moments. And then Lews Therin sees that he's actually killed his family. That makes him go even more insane. And then in pure rage, hatred, anger, grief, he channels as much Sayadine as he possibly could, and he burns himself out. And he also creates like this big giant mountain while killing himself.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the prologue. And if you want to see the prologue in action, I believe there's like an actual movie that was made that is just the prologue to the series. I forget the name of the title. I think it's called Winter Nights, or I know it has something to
Oh.
do with winter.
Oh, interesting.
I forgot, but it's with Billy Zane and some other actor. Billy
Oh,
Zane.
right.
So I
Yeah,
say check that out.
you sent me like a comic that you can get online of that too, right? Of the prologue. Or
Well,
no,
there's
wait, is
actually
that
a comic
wait, is
book of the full first novel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the full first novel actually has a graphic novel. So if I've kind of read the series 4 times, if you consider the graphic novel. The graphic novel is very much accurate to the story and dialogue. So if you want a quick, I wouldn't say it's quick because reading a graphic novel takes a while as well. But
Does it take longer than the novel?
I don't know, not me. It didn't take me longer.
Okay.
It'll take you a few hours. I think it's like almost 20 issues or something. It's pretty long. And each one probably will take you 20 minutes to read, 20 to 30 minutes. Because there's a lot of dialogue in the graphic novels. But anyway, then you go into the village of Evans Field, which is where our main characters were actually born or reside in at least. Now, we have a festival going on. There's a celebration. Rand, which is one of the main characters, is on the road with his father, and he sees a black rider. And he's kind of suspicious of the black rider. He tells his dad, he's like, "Who's that?" And the dad is like, "Well, I didn't see anything, but let's just keep going." So they go to town. He meets up with his friends. Well, at least Matt. Matt also tells Rand that he saw the Black Rider, so they got corroboration now. And they're kind of afraid to tell anybody because, well, at least somebody of authority, because they think they'll might think they're nuts. But what happens after that is Moraine comes about. Um, she meets up with the boys and she hands them a coin because she tells them, "Oh, I might have some work for you too." And these coins are like imbued with some type of, I guess, GPS, if you want to call it that. She can sense the location of these coins.
That's a good
And when
analogy.
or wherever if the bearer is still alive or not. So the reason why she's there is because she is looking for someone very specific, someone born a very specific time period. And it happens that there are three boys in this village that are born very close to each other. I think it was within 2 weeks of each other. And she's very interested because there is a prophecy that prophesizes that the dragon reborn is born within a certain time. He looks a certain way, and he's definitely some type of. I guess they're more than just boys. They're probably like 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, they said
When this thing popped off.
they said in Wheel of Time spoilers that Matt, Rand, and Perrin, who are the three boys who are the possibility of being the Dragon Reborn, are I think they on that Wheel of Time spoilers podcast they said that they were around 20 or so.
Yeah, they're a little older. They're not like your average teenager. But there are farm boys. They live in the country, and stories about magic, Aes Sedai, Trollocs are very mythological to them. They don't view them as kind of real or at all. So what ends up happening? Rand and his father goes back to their farm. I forget what the reason was, but I think it had to do with them needing to tend the farm, and they couldn't really be gone for an extended period of time. And while they're on their farm, they get attacked by Trollocs. And what is a Trolloc? Basically, it's what would you say a Trolloc is, Andrew?
Well, it's I think it's it's a creature who used to be a man who was corrupted by the dark power and has become a servant of the Dark One and is controlled by people who are like in positions of power who work for the Dark One, like the Forsaken, and I think they're about 8 feet tall, and they look like they're also known as they're also called half men sometimes, I think, and I think they have horns and they have beaks or something like that, so they're kind of like giant monsters, I guess.
Yeah, so if you think about it, if you think about a classical orc, think that except imbued with animalistic characteristics. So we're talking, they will represent all types of different animals. So you can have one that looks like a goat, one that looks like a boar, one that looks like a hawk, one that'll have like a human face but with like a hawk beak and stuff. So it's like a weird amalgamation of animal and human features.
Yeah.
And some of them will have hooves. Some of them can wear boots like a normal person. So they're pretty genetically variant, but they're all corrupted humans who work for the Dark.
Right.
So they get attacked on the farm by Trollocs. What happens is Tam, who is Rand's father, is secretly like a blade master, which is the most badass swordsman that ever lived in this universe. Like only a blade master can beat a blade master or anybody of that skill level.
Well, although,
So
except you can become a blade master if you beat a blade master if you are not one before you beat him too, right?
yeah, he could do that, or somebody can gift you a sword, and then you technically are a blade master.
Yeah,
But if you get challenged, the thing about being a blade master is that one, people see that you're a blade master and they won't want to fuck with you,
yeah,
quite simply. And two, if you are around other blade masters, it can cause a little bit of trouble
yeah,
because they'll want to test your mettle.
yeah.
So anyway, they escape from their house that's got overrun by Trollocs. They
And
go into a
Rand
forest.
and Rand kind of like kind of like almost acts like by happenstance kills a Trolloc and
Yeah,
later
he
on,
does.
yeah, the Trolloc just like falls on his sword. So he's like Moraine and Lan are really surprised later when they find out that he killed a Trolloc because they think he's just this simple farm boy, right?
Yeah, Trollocs aren't really easy to kill at all without training.
Yeah,
Um, and so what happens is during the combat, Tam gets poisoned by a Trolloc blade. So these blades are basically imbued with evil, and if you get basically just nicked by one of them, there's a large possibility that you're going to end up dead
yeah,
without I guess Aes Sedai medical intervention is kind of required in that case,
yeah,
with the one power. But anyway, he gets nicked. He starts having fever dreams. And in his fever dreams, on their way back to the main village, Tam starts to talk about his time in the war, about how Rand isn't his son, how he was found on a slope, and the Dragon Wall, and things of this nature during the Aiel War. And then Rand is just having a hard time because, one, he thinks these things might be true, and two, he's like very conflicted within because he really wants Tam to be his father.
and that's like that's another thing there with him being the dragon reborn and him finding out that he has some sort of secret destiny. That's another sort of the parallel with the messianic figure. And that's like
Yeah,
this typical like hero's journey that's like a common trope in fantasy, obviously too. Like when in that Legendarium podcast where they were comparing it to the Lord of the Rings, you can see obvious parallels with Frodo and with like every other main character in a fantasy series.
yeah, Lan and Aragorn,
Yeah,
Moraine and Gandalf.
yeah,
Very
Moraine. I love that one. Moraine is like a sexy Gandalf.
pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he used all of these tropes to hook some readers early on. And I know these things are very much played with later on in the series.
yeah.
Because there are times in the series where I absolutely do not like Rand. He just pisses me the fuck off. Um, and that's
Yeah,
because,
I forget which books it's in, but there are at least a few books in a row where he's like all angry and irritable because he's trying to keep all of these burdens to himself without and he doesn't want to burden everyone else. Whereas he late eventually figures out that he actually becomes stronger if he confides in people.
mhm. So, so next thing happens. They arrive at the village. It's been attacked by Trollocs as well. Um, Luhan's smithery was attacked, which is where Perrin works as a blacksmith apprentice. And I also believe that Matt's farm was attacked um, by Trollocs because they were looking for these. The Trollocs were looking specifically for these three boys. So what happens next? Um, Rand takes his father to to Moraine. Well, not at first. Takes him to Nynaeve at first. Nynaeve says there's nothing more that she can do, which is probably true. Maybe not. She doesn't know that she has this power within her. But they go to the inn. He talks to Bran Alvier, who's the mayor of Emmonsfield and also the owner of the tavern. Um, and asks him, "Hey, Tam's dying." And Tam is a well-respected figure within the village. She's actually part of the village council. And the village council is basically, well, their government system is pretty interesting. They split it up between men and women. So there's the village council and then the women's circle. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So there's the mayor of the village council is the leader of the village council, and the wisdom of the women's circle is the leader of the women's circle. So they have this male and female, two separate ruling classes within the village, and a lot of times the female women's circle has more say than the village council.
Yeah. That's a common theme throughout this series too, right? Like the the difference between male and female power, like with the one power too, like how the Aes Sedai are all women and the female power cannot be corrupted, but the male power can drive you mad, and it's like even risky, to say the least, to be a male channeler.
Well, it's extremely risky. Before this era, it's basically a death sentence.
Yeah.
And it's very dangerous for anyone to be a male channeler. And the only way you can survive as a male channeler is by turning yourself over to the Dark One.
Yeah.
That's the only way to survive. So, in this instance, Moraine sees Tam and she heals him. And Rand is very much grateful, very much in her debt, and he basically would do anything because of her health. And
Yeah.
Moraine explains to him that they got to leave. Also explains to the other two boys. So as they gather, they go into the stable with Lan, who is a warder. A warder is basically an Aes Sedai bodyguard. They also have special abilities that we might get into, but they all go to the stable to get out of there. And while they're discussing their departure, the Gleeman, Tom Merrilin, is hiding within the rafters, and he overhears their conversation. He says, "Well, I'm going with you guys." So now they got a Gleeman with them.
Yeah.
And as always, Rain just says, "The wheel weaves as the wheel wills." and they just go on. Also, Egwene overhears them and sees them sneaking about, so she's also suspicious of what they're doing. So she also joins the party. So out of Emmonsfield, we have Lan Moraine, the three boys, Perrin, Mat, and Rand, the Gleeman, Tom Merrilin, and Egwene, who was basically the Wisdom's apprentice. All right, so they're all leaving. They're leaving their families. I believe the only person who got a chance to speak to their family before they left was Rand. He told his father, after his father recovered, told her what happened and that he had to leave. That the village wasn't safe if he was around, and Tam totally understood and let them go. So they go for a few days, just trotting around the countryside, trying to get. Well, basically, their goal is to get to Tar Valon, right? From the very beginning, that's where they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that divert them along the way.
And I think another another commonality there between um, the Eye of the World and Fellowship of the Ring is that the matter none of them other than Moraine and Lan have left the two rivers before, kind of like
Mhm.
how Frodo and Sam and Merry and Pippin have never left the Shire in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, but even if you think about it, Moraine is Gandalf, and Gandalf's a worldly traveler.
And Lan
And
is
I
like
guess Lan
Aragorn.
is Aragorn, and he's been
Yeah,
around.
yeah, exactly.
So it's a parallel story there, super coincidental. Like if you think about Lan, he's a king that
Yep,
is no longer part of his. He's a king um, of a kingdom that has been destroyed. That's same with Aragorn. Numenor was a destroyed kingdom. Um, he has kind of this love interest that they can't really be together because of many different reasons throughout the
yep,
story. He's like a badass warrior, good tracker and hunter.
yep.
Um, he has but yeah, there's a lot of parallels. But anyway, they go traveling through the city. They keep remarking about, oh, here's Watch Hill. I haven't been this far. Oh, here's Tarn Ferry. Um, and on the way from this journey to Tarn Ferry, they get attacked by a draw car. Do you want to explain what a draw car is?
I don't remember I don't remember exactly what it is. It's I just there's so many different types of creatures. I just remember that it's different from a Murdral and a Trolloc and a Dark Friend.
Well, a draw car is basically like a vampire or Batman. Like it's not very intelligent, less so than a Trolloc, because I don't think Drakkar can actually speak or have conversations.
No, okay.
Um,
Oh,
they
that's another thing that we forgot to mention earlier too, with that Trolloc that Rand killed spoke to him, right? And then when he
That's
told
right.
Moraine and Land that, they were really surprised because Trollocs don't normally talk either.
Well, they do. They just don't speak English,
Right, right, yeah.
because they have their own scripts. They have their own language. And what the Trolloc tells him is say, "Hey, there's a Murdral coming, and he wants to talk to you."
Yeah,
Um, a Murdral is basically kind of like the ring race on Lord of the Rings, except
yeah,
there's way more Murdral.
yeah, way more
And
than nine.
yeah, there's hundreds, maybe even thousands. But a Murdral is kind of like, if you want to think about what Trollocs and what are Murdral, it's the race of humans corrupted by the Dark One. And out of there's a certain percentage of people who become channelers. I think it's about one out of every 100 people has the ability to channel. When Trollocs are made, one out of every 100 of them can become a Murdral. So it's the same ratio of humans to channelers as to Trollocs to Murdral.
Okay, so that's like the hierarchy of bad guys.
Yeah. So Murdral, they're these badass creatures that if you kill it, it will not die until like the sun comes up or the next day.
Oh yeah, because there's a part when I think it's Lan cuts off the head of one of them, and it keeps like chasing them and
Flailing.
stuff. Yeah,
It's like flails about with its sword, like you just gotta stay away from it.
Yeah,
because it's dead, but it can't. Like it won't completely die until the next day. It's
right.
crazy, and they're actually very, very lethal and quick sword fighters as well.
Yeah,
Um, so yes, the Drakkar is this flying werebat. I would say that's kind of has this power of hypnotism. It has like a hypnotic power. It's not intelligent though, because Moraine does explain how she's able to trick it, and like a Drakkar is used to scout ahead because of its flying ability. It's able to scout over a vast amount of area.
right.
So while they're at Taran Ferry, they don't really trust the. There's like this myth or this rumor that Taran Ferry people are just like these thieves and not really stand-up folk. So when they get to the actual ferry, they get ferried across, and then Moraine destroys the ferry
Yeah.
so that if there is any pursuit, it'd be very difficult because that's the only crossing.
That's kind of that's a little bit similar to Fellowship of the Ring too, where they cross the river at Brandywine Bridge, and they when they're getting chased by the Nazgul.
Yeah, that's right. And then Glorfindel, right? Cause it. Well, if you want to do the movie version, it's Arwen.
Yeah,
Book version, it's Glorfindel. They summon the rapids, right?
yeah,
And they can't cross, and they also have the same issue. Trollocs and Murdral can't traverse running water.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just like the Nazgul, they can't handle running water.
I think I just got this from Wikipedia, but on Wikipedia it says that Robert Jordan did a lot of direct nods to the Lord of the Rings.
Yes, definitely. That is definitely the case. And the funny thing about the weird and crazy thing about the Wheel of Time is there's an implication that this story occurs in a future Earth.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was really interesting that I was mentioning to you on the first Legendarium episode on this series. They were talking about the Age of Legends and how it's supposed to mean actually like a future time, like our time. Like there's Matarese the healer who's supposed to be like Mother Teresa, and then there's a legend of someone who flies to the moon in the belly of a golden eagle, which is supposed to be like metal, and it's supposed to be the shuttle that lands on the moon. And then there's one part where they find a really tall building with that's covered in windows that's supposed to be kind of like a skyscraper. That's really
Mhm.
interesting.
And there's also Mosk and Merc, and there's lances of fire, or there's spears
Yeah,
of fire, which is
yeah,
supposed to be like the nuclear weapons between America and Russia.
yeah,
So there is definitely an implication that this story is like a future, like a far in the future Earth.
yeah. Oh,
And there's also implication. Go ahead.
on yeah, I thought it was cool also when I was listening to one of those Wheel of Time spoilers episodes last night that George R. R. Martin in the Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire novels also gives a lot of subtle head nods to the Wheel of Time series in his books.
Yeah, I think I don't know what they are exactly, but I've heard that as well. And I might
It's
have
like
to.
really subtle things. I don't remember exactly what it was that they were saying, but I'm pretty sure they were saying that it was pretty subtle things.
Yeah, because I know when George R. R. Martin started writing, they I think they both kind of started writing their books at the same time.
Yeah, and at the time when the Wheel of Time novels were really big and popular, that was like you said, they were out at around the same time, but the Wheel of Time novels were way bigger and more popular than the Game of Thrones novels. So
Yeah.
they were like Robert Jordan and George R. R. Martin were friends. So Robert Jordan was kind of like an inspiration to George R. R. Martin too.
Yeah, definitely. And even Brandon Sanderson has said that Robert Jordan was an inspiration to him as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So now getting into it, they cross the ferry. Moraine uses the one power to create a whirlpool to sink the ferry. And then she gives the ferryman like money to buy a new ferry because that's how Aes Sedai roll.
Yep.
So they continue on, and I think the first town they get to is Baralon, right?
I think so.
And they do meet an important character in Baralon. Do you remember who it is?
Is that Tom?
No, Tom's with them.
Oh, right, right. Of course, of course. Um,
It's one of Rand's love interests.
oh, it's Nynaeve, right?
Nynaeve is not Rand's love
No,
interest.
no. It's Min. It's Min.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yes, Min Farshaw. I think her first name is actually Elmindrada, but she just goes by Min. She's very tomboyish. She works in the stable at the inn there. I forget the name of the inn, but there is an inn in Barelon in which they stay. At this point in time,
Is that Stag and
yeah,
Lion?
I believe you're right. I think it is the Stag and Lion.
Okay.
Because the one that they stay at later in Camelin, I think it's called the Queen's Blessing.
Okay.
Or is the Stag and Lion the White Bridge one? I don't know. There's like
I
three
don't know.
major towns that they stop off at. The
Yeah.
first one, the first one that they stop off at is Barelon. It has these nice wooden walls. They're like really odd. The country boys, like, oh
Yeah.
wow, this is a city. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So they go and they go to the inn. Of course, at this place, Lan and Moraine have aliases. So they're going by Mistress Alice. And what was Lan's name? Yeah.
I don't
Andra?
remember. What was
I think
it?
it was I think it was Andra, right?
I don't remember. That
Yeah,
might That's
Andra.
probably it.
So anyway, this is kind of where they first encounter white cloaks.
Yeah.
They see if there are white cloaks in the town. And
And the Wheel of Time spoilers podcast, that's another thing that was helpful for me because they're explaining them as like religious fundamentalists.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
They're so far in the light that there are extremists.
Yeah. And they're so
Um,
like they get so paranoid about chasing
dark.
dark friends sometimes that they think people who are dark friends who are not like well, I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, so what dark friends are, they're basically people who are in league with the dark one.
Yeah. And
Um,
they can control um Murdral and Trollocs, right? Or is it just
mm,
Trollocs?
I think the only people that can really directly control Murdral are Forsaken.
Oh,
Dark
okay.
friends
Right.
are basically spies that can blend into regular society and they can
Right.
influence events, but they do not command any of the military forces of the Dark One.
Right. Yeah, it's helpful. I'm always reminding myself of that hierarchy too, that the Forsaken have more power than the Dark Friends.
Yeah, so they're in Berlin, they're at the inn, and then they find out that somebody was it I think is that yeah, that's when Nynaeve finds them.
Yeah, yeah,
And they're like, Land's like, what the fuck? I'm like one of the best trackers ever.
yeah,
And this lady like finds us exactly. and then basically, I guess her and Moraine get into arguments, and like she basically joins the party, so to speak.
Yeah.
Also, beforehand, Rand talks to Min, and Min has some special abilities, right?
Yeah.
So Min's special ability is that she can read auras. She sees images, and basically she could tell the future. Sometimes she knows what they mean, the pictures that she sees, and sometimes she doesn't. But one thing we do know is that they always come true.
Yeah.
And really, one of the really cool and interesting things about this series is that some of the things that she sees, you do not see them happen until like maybe the last couple books.
Oh yeah.
This
What?
is so there's a lot of foreshadowing that happens in this first book.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Also, when Nynaeve arrives, she tells Rand, "Hey, there's this lady, and I see like all these sparks flying around her with her and Moraine. I think she's dangerous, but she's also an important part of your group."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Lady, who's he talking about?" And he goes, and it's Nynaeve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now that they're at this inn, there's something happens that they gotta leave quick, and I believe I forgot what it was exactly in Barrelon. I think there was I don't remember if it was the White Cloaks that they had to flee. Like there was a specific reason why they left
I think it might have
Barrelon.
I think it might have been the White Cloaks.
I don't think it was. I think. Oh no, okay. The reason why they left Barrelon is because Rand was going down to get some milk. Do you remember this?
I remember him getting
In the
some milk,
middle of the
right?
night, and then a Murdral accosted him inside the inn.
Oh, right, right. Yeah.
All right, so and all this time when they're traveling as well, I do want to mention that their dreams are being monitored or at least influenced by a character named Balzamon,
Yeah.
who who Rand believes is Shaitan, which is basically the Dark One.
Yeah. But it turns out that he's just a is he a Forsaken or a Dark One?
He is
Or
the
not a
Forsaken
Dark One, Dark One.
Ishamael.
Forsaken,
No,
right.
yeah, he's a Forsaken. It's
Yeah.
the Shamael,
Yeah,
and
that's
he's
that took me rereading it this time to get it straight that he's Baalzamon, also known as Ishamael.
yes, betrayer of hope, and he's also so disfigured from using the true source or the true power. Oh, there's so many different powers. There's the one power, there's the true source, the true power. So the true power is power directly siphoned from the Dark One. It's not Sidar or Sidene, it's a whole different power.
Right.
Overuse of this power causes physical changes to your body. And in the case of Baalzamon, there's basically fire burning inside of him, and you can see it visibly through his mouth and
Yeah.
eyes.
He's like invading Rand's dreams throughout the first book, and then like obviously other characters too, like you said, like Matt, for example.
Yeah, so he's simultaneously invades all three. He doesn't know which one of them is the Dragon Reborn, but he suspects one of them is.
Yeah.
So the dreams that are shown to the three boys are pretty much identical. There is a point where they do tell Tom about it because they're really scared, and they don't want to tell the Aes Sedai because they don't really trust her that much at this point in time. And that's because they just don't really trust the one power, or it's their ignorance of what an Aes Sedai is what makes them not trust them
Yeah.
about all the stories that they've heard as kids. So what happens? They got to leave now because, of course, the Murdral. is going to bring his cronies, and they're going to pretty much attack the city. So they get up, they get ready to leave. They actually get stopped while leaving the city. Um, but before I get into this, earlier in the day, Rand and Matt go on some mischief, and Matt causes, I believe, some mud to splatter all over some white clothes. And then Rand laughs at them, and he gets caught doing so. Uh, this causes a confrontation between the two, and they become remembered as possible dark friends.
Right.
Also, like to note here too is that Rand is also suffering channeling sickness.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not something you would know the first time you read the book.
And what was he? When was the time that he channeled that he's getting channeling sickness from again?
Okay, so when they were escaping from Emmons Field on the horses, Egwene was on Bella, and he saw that Bella was not keeping up very well. Because Bella's not the most wry horse. She's pretty old, and the other horses were young and healthy horses. So he used the one power to give Bella some extra, I guess, stamina to keep up with the other horses.
Okay.
He did this unconsciously. He didn't know. He would know, I guess, in that section, he's very much, oh man, the stupid thing dropped. Okay.
What happened?
It drops like usual. I'll try to get it back up. But anyway,
I'm still live on my end.
yeah, it's gonna be live for a little bit.
Okay.
So if it drops, let me know,
Okay.
and I'll pull up another one. All right. So yeah, it was because the horse was not keeping up, and you can see through his thoughts that he's very much concerned about Bella not being able to keep up with the rest of the horse.
Right.
Man, it's probably gonna cut off soon. So in the meantime, let me make another. Let me try to start it here.
Okay.
It's been such a pain in the butt today with this thing. I'm just gonna start the second room already.
That's a good
Let me
idea.
know. Let me know if you see it cutting off.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. It's still live right now.
All right. So the channeling sickness, what it is in Rand's case, it gives him headaches, flu symptoms, and it makes him irrational. So in the case of irrationality, it's him laughing at the white cloak, knowing that that's a very dangerous proposition. Um, so that happens. Well, the gate scene, it's a pretty interesting scene. Because at the gate scene, um, Moraine causes a distraction, right? Where she appears to grow into some type of giant person. And using the one power, it's basically like some type of illusionary technique. They don't really get really into that technique because you don't see that technique being used a lot in the series. So it's kind of like a one-off technique. But I think it has something to do with Mask of Mirrors, if you remember what that technique is. Mask of Mirrors makes is a it's a weave that allows you to disguise yourself. Is it still rolling? Uh-oh. Gotten some server errors. Oh wow, I think something's going on with YouTube. Hold on.
Oh, sorry, I had myself muted when you just asked me if we're still running. We are.
Okay, I'm still working on trying to get another room. I should have made like three of them like right away.
Yeah.
And now there's some weird YouTube error going on.
Huh.
Crappity crap crap. Trying to get this thing going. Might have to close it.
It's still running right now.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm trying to make another one, and YouTube is giving me like an internal error, and it's telling me it's live right now too. It's weird. I wish it didn't close down like that. It just would stay running forever until I said turn off.
Like stay running off air.
But I do know that Google Hangouts on air is getting phased out. So I have
Really?
no idea. Yeah, I have no idea. It's supposed to
That's
be
like
phased out by the end of 2019, and I don't know what's going to replace it.
I hope something does. That's what I use every time.
Yeah, because it's easy. I know there's other things to use, but Jesus, I don't want to have to go through a bunch of hoops.
Yeah.
All right, it's still saying it's live now. Let me see if it allows me to resume it. It might. Nope. Being a butthole. This is a stupid